What if the waiting room you hate is actually the workshop where God is building your breakthrough? Right now, while you're checking your phone for an answer that hasn't come, while you're lying awake wondering if He forgot you, God is not silent. He is not slow. He is not sleeping. He is working. And by the end of this video, you are going to see exactly how, through people in Scripture who waited in the dark and came out into a light they never saw coming. Stay with me, because if you're in a season of waiting right now, this message was written for you. There is a lie that creeps into the heart of almost every believer during a season of delay. The lie sounds like this: if God were really working, I would see something by now. We measure God's activity by our own timeline. We assume that silence means absent. That stillness means abandonment. That delay means denial. But nothing could be further from the truth. Isaiah the prophet wrote something that has comforted believers for thousands of years. He said that those who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength, that they shall mount up with wings like eagles, that they shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint. Notice the order. Renewed strength comes before the running. The waiting is not the empty space before the promise. The waiting is where the strength for the promise is built. An eagle does not grow wings the moment it needs to fly. Those wings develop long before the flight. And so it is with you. What God is building in you right now in this quiet and painful season is the very strength you will need to carry what He is about to give you. Let's look at a young man named Joseph. Joseph had a dream. In that dream, his family bowed down to him. He believed, as any young person would, that greatness was coming soon. Instead, his own brothers threw him into a pit. Then they sold him into slavery. Then in Egypt, he was falsely accused and thrown into prison for years. Imagine being 17 years old with a promise from God burning in your heart, and then spending over a decade in a pit, in slavery, and behind prison bars. If anyone had a right to believe God had forgotten him, it was Joseph. But here is what the Scripture reveals. Quietly, in the background of his suffering, God was with him the entire time. In the house of Potiphar, God prospered him. In the prison, God gave him favor with the keeper. God was positioning Joseph piece by piece, season by season, for a purpose Joseph could not yet see. 13 years passed between the dream and its fulfillment. 13 years of what looked from the outside like failure. But every single one of those years was doing something. Building character, building wisdom, building the very qualities Joseph would need to lead a nation through famine and save his own family. The pit was not the end of Joseph's story, it was the middle. And your pit, whatever it looks like right now, is not the end of yours either. Consider Abraham and Sarah. God promised Abraham a son, a promise that would become a nation, a promise that would bless the whole earth. And Abraham believed it. But the child didn't come. Not that year, not the next, not for 25 years. 25 years is long enough to bury hope, long enough to stop believing, to stop asking, to start explaining away the promise as something you misunderstood. And yet, all through those decades, God was not idle. He was shaping Abraham's faith. He was teaching him to trust a promise rather than a timeline. He was preparing not just a son, but a legacy that would outlast every empire in human history. When Isaac was finally born, Abraham was old. Sarah was old. By every human measure, the promise arrived far too late to be convenient. but it arrived exactly on time for eternity. Sometimes what God is doing in your waiting isn't about giving you the answer faster. It's about making sure the answer, when it comes, is strong enough to carry what He has planned for the generations after you. Now, think about an entire nation. The people of Israel spent 400 years in Egypt. Generations were born, lived, and died as slaves, waiting for a deliverance their ancestors had been promised. 400 years of brickmaking, 400 years of crying out, 400 years where on the surface it looked like heaven had gone quiet. But Scripture tells us that God heard their groaning. He remembered His covenant. He was not absent during those centuries. He was preparing a deliverer, preparing a nation, preparing a plan so massive that it would still be told as a testimony of His faithfulness thousands of years later. The silence of heaven is never the absence of God. It is often the sound of Him working on a scale too large for you to see from where you're standing. Let's look at one more. Hannah wanted a child for years. Year after year, she wept. Year after year, she prayed. Year after year, she watched others receive what she longed for, while her own hands stayed empty. She poured her heart out before the Lord so intensely that a priest thought she was drunk on wine. That is what real, desperate waiting can look like. Not polished, not patient in the way we imagine patience should look. Raw, honest, exhausted prayer. And in her waiting, God was already forming the answer. Not just a son, but a boy named Samuel, who would grow up to anoint the first 2 kings of Israel and become one of the most important prophets in the nation's history. Hannah's years of waiting were not wasted time. They were the exact years God used to prepare both the timing and the purpose of the child she would raise. So here is the truth beneath every one of these stories. While Joseph waited, God was positioning him. While Abraham waited, God was building his faith. While Israel waited, God was preparing deliverance. While Hannah waited, God was forming purpose. And while you wait for the job, for the healing, for the marriage, for the child, for the breakthrough, for the door to finally open, God is doing something in you and around you that you cannot yet see. He may be healing wounds you haven't even acknowledged. He may be removing people or plans that would have hurt you later. He may be building patience, humility, or wisdom that you will desperately need once the answer arrives. He may be aligning timing with other people and circumstances you don't even know exist yet. Waiting in the hands of God is never wasted. It is never empty. It is preparation disguised as delay. So what do you do in the meantime? How do you wait without losing hope? First, keep showing up. Keep praying even when the words feel repetitive, even when heaven feels quiet. Faithfulness in the waiting is not wasted effort. It is the soil where your breakthrough is growing. Second, guard your heart from bitterness. It is easy in long seasons of delay to grow resentful toward others who seem to receive answers faster, or even toward God Himself. Resentment will not speed up your season. It will only poison the joy you'll need to fully receive what's coming. Third, look for the small evidences of God's work along the way. Joseph had small moments of favor before the big promotion. Abraham had smaller confirmations before Isaac was born. God rarely reveals the whole plan at once, but He often leaves small markers along the road to remind you that He is still guiding you. And fourth, trust that God's timing is not cruelty, it is craftsmanship. He is not punishing you with delay. He is perfecting you for what's ahead. If no one has told you this today, let this be the moment you hear it. You have not been forgotten. You have not been overlooked. You have not fallen through the cracks of heaven's attention. God is working while you wait. He was working in the pit with Joseph. He was working in the decades with Abraham. He was working in the silence with Israel. He was working in the tears with Hannah. And he is working right now in the middle of your waiting room. Hold on. Keep your heart soft. Keep showing up. Because the very thing that feels like delay may be the exact process God is using to prepare you for something greater than you ever imagined. If this word encouraged you, stay a little longer. There's another video waiting for you that speaks directly into the season. Just look at the video appearing on your screen now, and let's keep walking through this together.